Ira, cloud technology, once again, as an industry, we've been a little bit behind in adoption, but we're really now starting to take off. Do you think that is actually going to help us, leap forward as far as technology goes? Because just as an example, I think, Accor now globally have said, rather than the group having to standardize on one PMS, which was always extremely difficult to achieve, if not impossible, there are 8 PMSs that the properties can choose from. And I think now the use of products like middleware to help, the PMS and the CRS, Central Reservation System, talk together is probably a step forward. Do you see that happening?
I think you kind of touched on 2 different aspects here. So the fact that the choice between having one standardized solution across the whole portfolio or having multiple systems to choose from is a different discussion from whether we should or should not adopt cloud solutions and in general what they do for us. So I would like to separate those 2. So let's start with the cloud technology. I have a whole lecture on it when I teach it clearly at San Diego State, right? And I have an entire lecture dedicated just to cloud computing and to cloud solutions to explain students what it is and why it's beneficial and why this is not the future. This is our reality, our real life. Logically, we should not have a single property that is still using premise-based software. However, realistically, half of the hotel properties, lodging, I would say, properties in the world still use legacy systems. There are various reasons for that. In fact, in some countries, which I discovered, I have clients in Turkey, which I do consulting for. It's a hotel group. And their situation is that their government is not allowing them to use cloud solutions because they are not allowing the data to go out of the country. They have to use premise-based solutions with data sitting on their servers in the back office. This is their reality. And he says, Ira, you write those wonderful things in your book, but we can't use any of that, any of those solutions because we just, it's legally not allowed. So there are situations when, this is one of the reasons why the world is not developing at the same pace. But in the countries where that's not an issue, we still have many companies that haven't adopted cloud solutions. And in many cases, that's and not only PMS, but there are other different components of tech stack that might be still sitting on somebody's servers in somebody's garage or in the back office. And the reason is because the larger the company, the harder it is to transition to an upgraded tech stack and the more money it takes to invest. So the older the company is, the larger the company is, the higher the chances are that they still sit on old stack. Many of them use DOS-based systems still. So it doesn't make any sense to me as a technologist, but this is our reality and this is still happening. And we're still battling with that through education and awareness and other things. And we're moving in the right direction, but that's still our reality. The benefits of cloud computing. So compared to, first of all, there is a significant financial benefit. This is the rule number 1 or the reason number 1 why hotel companies should consider investing in it. Because the old school premise-based solutions would cost you, a subscription or a license would cost you tens of thousands of dollars. With the development of cloud computing, it's a matter of hundreds of dollars per month. And they normally have the per room model where they price depending on the size of the property. And it's literally just a matter of there is no initial investment. In many cases, you don't even pay an upfront fee for the installation. It's just online recurring fee based on SaaS model, which is much more optimal and profitable for your operations as a hotel company or an individual hotel than it would be for you to have to invest multiple thousands and tens of thousands of dollars upfront, plus the ongoing maintenance fee, which is even larger than the subscription fee from the SaaS model. So the costs and also the cost benefits for the companies that do transition to cloud computing software is just much less. It costs much less in terms of the data storage, maintenance fees, and other fees that are associated with managing an entire server room and other things. It's just much cheaper to outsource that to AWS or CDP and utilize those tools. And if you need more data and more computing power, it automatically increases. If you need less, it automatically decreases. It's just flexible and much more cost effective and much less expensive. So that's number one. Number two is security, safety of your data. It's a big misconception that if I have my data in my closet on the physical computer, it's safe there. No, it's not. It's actually much more vulnerable than delegating it to the security of your data to people who know what to do with it. Experts in companies like Google or Amazon or Microsoft. They understand how to deal with it and how to make sure it's secured. And then continuous evolution and development of those software tools, as opposed to if you have a premise-based piece of software, not mentioning any specific names, but I remember when we had one update every 5 years for our PMS system, we had version 1.7 from that was upgraded from 1.6 previously installed 5 years ago. And somebody had to actually come into the property, stick their USB drive into the computer or download something and install something. So that's much longer process, and it's just more cumbersome and takes more time. That's why it's much less frequent. Then you become legacy real quick. Your functionality becomes outdated. If you're in the cloud, if you use solutions that are in the cloud, I worked for companies that literally published new code every week. Like literally every week they had a new version of software, and it was always either bug fixes or new functionality that customers would benefit from. So you continuously develop, continuously evolve, which you obviously can't do with premise-based. So the benefits of cloud solutions are numerous. It still, again, doesn't make any sense to me why we're not the entire industry is there already in the cloud. But again, our reality is that there are still many companies that are using premise-based systems and probably will be for a while. We just need to do more education and raising more awareness about these cloud-based solutions. But next thing you know, there will be metaverse, and then cloud will be outdated, but there will still be companies using premise-based, DOS-based software systems in our industry.
Then they can skip directly to metaverse from on-premise, potentially.
Amen to that. Hopefully they will.
No, that's an interesting point. Statistically, I would guess that probably in Australia, we're still 70, 80% on-premise. Yeah, it is that high, particularly across the larger groups. There's some independent properties, they have the luxury of being a little bit more flexible, and they have taken advantage of cloud-based. And as you said, it's just a matter of cost. The upfront cost is minimal. The training, they're normally much more intuitive. So training and installation costs are normally not part of the equation. And with a lot of the solutions we see as well, as they are as software as a service, and it's a monthly fee. So if for any point, you close a hotel for a 1-year refurbishment or something, you can literally, stop paying the monthly fee and then pick it up again once the refurbishment's done. So much more flexibility than an on-premise solution.
Absolutely. And you also, just one more comment, you also mentioned, you touched on the topic of, branded hotels and larger hotel companies being slower to adopt this. It's also one of the problems in our industry that, as I mentioned, the larger the company it is, the harder it is for them to upgrade. That's why we have this, the situation kind of flipped. Previously, 40 years ago, when brands became strong, they were innovative. They were able to provide modern technology for their franchisees, for the owners and operators. But now, 40 years later, they haven't really been up to speed on the modern technology, and it flipped towards independent properties having access to modern tech, and that is much more innovative than what brands are using. Again, because as you mentioned, they're just more flexible. It's easier for Citizen M hotel that has 30 properties, or sorry if I'm not remembering something like that. Yeah. Or, a smaller company, or, maybe a company that has 2-3 hotels in their portfolio, to switch to a newer property management system that is cloud native, that has newer functionality, a bunch of integrations and seamless user-friendly interface that doesn't require any training. Like literally, there should be no things that you did for your, for many years in your career. There shouldn't be any more trainers of a PMS system because it should be so user-friendly. I used one of the technology solutions that is targeting independent providers, independent hoteliers in one of my classes for the students, and I just told them, okay, one by one, go to the computer and just figure out how to check a person in without any training. They just saw this system for the first time. They went in, took them 20 seconds to check a person in. Wow. Then the next person, okay, go and change the price for tomorrow for single queen. They went to the computer and changed the price within 30 seconds. And then the next person, okay, go make a reservation, took a minute. So this is how the new modern technology should look like. There shouldn't be extensive training. So unfortunately, right now we have this balance between the software that is available for independent operators and the software that is available for franchisees that are part of larger brands. And hopefully this will the gap starts shrinking as we talk more about it, and we see some companies really making progress in the direction of larger companies making progress in adopting their technology. But at the same time, it's again, it's a safe choice for them to sign with Oracle or Sabre, those companies that are also large and they're doing wonderful things, but they're also legacy companies that are not as innovative as a startup. Large brand would probably never sign up with startup that was born 2 years ago. Very rare cases. So it's interesting to see how we keep evolving and whether that gap starts shrinking or possibly not between the brands and independent operators.
I think that we will start to see that the gap will shrink because, as we mentioned before, I think Accor is quite forward in their approach that, allow the property to choose from a number of property management systems. I think that's certainly a step in the right direction.
Yeah, Accor is doing great things. I mean, I really applauded them when they made that decision. I think that's a great choice, but I don't know if it will be followed by larger brands. And Accor is a relatively small company compared to Wyndham and Joyce and Marriott and others, and it's going to be harder for them to adopt the same strategy, I think, because especially at least when it comes to the PMS CRS portion of their tech stack, because you have to keep in mind that they need to integrate all that into their tech stack, and there's still no API standardization, regardless of all the efforts by HT&G for many years. API standards are still a big mess. Data standards are still a big mess. And if you have a portfolio of thousands of properties and you need to integrate 8 different PMS systems, that is going to be a nightmare that will last about 5 years. And because their databases are also old and they're sitting, on a table format, and it's just also probably sitting on on the server in somebody's garage. So it's going to be very difficult for other companies to do the same what Accor did, and I doubt they will make that choice, but we'll see. It will be interesting to see what happens.
It'll be interesting to watch.